so they just passed by, and as you can see, they leave all these twigs and stuff there. And if it rains, like it will be today, because you got Hurricane Helene passing by there today. Actually, today and tomorrow is going to be when it's going to get kind of hairy. And if you look at some of these, some of the way that they left across the street, they really don't do well blowing it. I mean, you got all these hedges here. You see these hedges? And what happens is that these hedges, they just block the leaves and the twigs. So these things, they just stay there. You know, they just stay there. And then when you get when you get how do you say, when you get the wind, and when you get the rain, this is what's gonna happen. So you're gonna get leaves, you're gonna get twigs. I think there's another thing here that I saw that looked like twigs over here in the corner, but I can't seem to get it here with this particular camera. I can't seem to get it. Maybe I might have to go downstairs and see if I can get a picture of it. It looks like there's some twigs over here, like all the way in the corner there. Seems like the corners is really like a sweet spot. And with the wind kicking up from today from the Hurricane Helene, that's gonna be pretty much what's happening. I don't know. Let's do something though. Let me put on the news, and we can put on the weather report, so that this way you can tell what date it is. This is not after the hurricane, but before it.
Right overhead by tomorrow night and Friday. Welcome back, everybody. Here's what's watching right now. Here's what we have. We got this trough of low pressure. That's what we're watching as a main steering flow. Look at the circulation. That's the water vapor imagery. It's near St. Louis into Cincinnati. It's dipping down to the south, so it's essentially going to grab this Helene up and curve it into that direction. The only problem is we've already got a heck of a lot of rain that's falling right now in front of it. So look at all the lightning bursting out, especially around Tennessee, northern Georgia, into Alabama. Tremendous amount of lightning, tremendous amount of rainfall. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to see the flooding commence before the storm even gets there. We're talking about Helene. So there you go. Here's the Atlanta Metro. Oh, wow. Storms are heavy now, especially north of I-85. Get down the I-85 corridor all the way down towards Montgomery, Auburn. You guys are all getting slammed right now with heavy rain and thunderstorms. And I want you to look at this. This is a level 4 out of 4 on the bad scale when it turns into flooding for today. This is before the storm even gets there. We're talking about Helene. This is an upper level low acting on the moisture coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico, providing a tremendous amount of rainfall before Helene's remnants even get there. That's a bad situation, right? So here's the way it looks over the next few days. Here you are, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Heavy rain peeling into the region. Going to pause about 6 o'clock this evening. Storms rolling through northern Georgia. It's almost a non-stop deluge, right? So you're talking about the Mets game tonight against Atlanta. It's the least of our concerns, I get it, but they're not going to get that in. Rain going right through Atlanta into Gainesville, and here comes that main batch of rain out of the storm itself right through late Thursday night into Friday morning. There's a center circulation wrapping up. You can see it right here as it moves into northern parts of Tennessee, into North Carolina too. And then finally by Friday afternoon, you begin to dry out, but the wind is still going to be out there. And with the soil primed, you can see trees come down. It's going to be power outage city, unfortunately. in areas by Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina too. How much rain are we talking? You get that little extra oomph when you get across the mountains, a little extra orographic uplift, and wind blows up the mountains, it squeezes out more rain. We've got flooding concerns also for Thursday into Friday, obviously. That's all from the storm's remnants.
Of course, we've got the full phalanx of agencies and assets that are standing by for search and rescue should that be needed. I will say the last couple of storms, last 2 years, 23 and this year, we have not needed as many as we've had in the past, and I think part of that is some of the folks in vulnerable areas evacuated. So we'll see what's necessary. Hopefully there won't be a big need, but we have all the agencies and all the assets on standby, everything from high water vehicles to riverine assets to rotary wing aircraft. It's all there and will be deployed as needed.
All right, that was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis warning people about the incoming storm and the effects it's going to have. I want to show you this video right there. That is Cancun. I mean, that was overnight last night where it was only a tropical storm. That's a storm surge coming in. You can see breaking waves on top of the higher waters. That is right here from one of the hotels. And Yucatan Peninsula got pounded, and we could see as much as 12 to 15 feet of storm surge coming in for the bend of Florida by tomorrow. So that's going to be a huge concern for sure. Now, I've got the new advisory details coming in as well. This is brand new for you. We've got the 2 o'clock advisory about 10 minutes early. It's still moving to the north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Pressure is about the same, 979. Max winds are 80. So no change in strength at the 2 o'clock advisory. At least that's some good news right here. What hasn't changed, though, also is a storm surge forecast. Even if it gets a little bit of a stronger storm, it's still going to pile up the water. So we have got Apalachicola, Big Bend, all the way down through Tampa, into Naples, in the lower part of Florida. You guys are going to be under the gun with a storm surge. It's going to start as early as late tonight, all the way through lower parts of Florida, and then by tomorrow afternoon, rolling up the coast, following essentially that east side of the storm. So we've got up to 12 feet of storm surge possible, up to 8 feet north of Tampa, Tampa Bay, Port Charlotte area down there. You can see as much as 4 to 8 feet of storm surge coming in, especially if it comes in during high tide. So that's going to be a huge issue. Up to 10 feet, even right around just left of the Big Bend area, but it's going to be north and east of the side, channeling it into that region, just like a big glove, getting all that water going up. Let me show you this. So this is Tampa right here, Tampa Bay region. You can see the yellow shaded region, some oranges in there also, an indication of maybe 8 to, this says 9 feet of storm surge. Don't think it'll be quite that much, but we're thinking about 4 to 8 as a possibility, especially the northern side. Then you get up north a bit farther, and this is where it's going to be game on, right? This is the entire width of the Gulf of Mexico getting piled up across this region with that wind. It's going to go right inland. So you're talking 10 to 15 foot storm surge rolling up through that region, up through the Big Bend, that's St. Mark's, South Choppy. Not a lot of people right here, obviously, but any kind of wind and rain you see, it's going to be a huge problem. We'll detail that coming up again in just a little bit. All right, tropical storm force winds are already arriving in Cancun. We've seen that before. Helene is pushing into the Gulf of Mexico with powerful wind gusts all the way into Florida. And again, we just got our 2 o'clock update. We'll get Brian Norcross in here, too, right around the 2 o'clock hour sometime to explain what he sees in observation. But we only see 80-mile-per-hour winds at this point. It is not strengthening as big time as it will later on today to tonight. But we do anticipate that. So that was Cancun right there. And that's when it was essentially still a tropical storm. So Cancun, Mexico, you can see the video. Ugly beach already. You got that sargassum weed coming in, kind of rocking and rolling just a bit also with the camera. You can see the palm fronds getting bashed around just a touch. But the rain is here, and it's going to be heavy times, especially over the next several days. So that's what we're watching. Get back to this map right there. I want to show you the storm surge for you right around Clearwater, Florida. This is going to be the tide. So we know that's what the tide's going to look like. That's the line. The red shaded area is a storm surge that we're anticipating, and we're going to put it against the tide. The blue is going to be the total water displacement, the total water pushed in, and it does look like it's going to peak. That's going to be sometime on Thursday afternoon through Thursday evening, and you can see that line, somewhere between 6 and 8 feet to maybe as much as 9 feet. So that's for Clearwater Beach right there. And then we go in a little bit farther. Here we are around St. Petersburg, and again, looking at the tide going up and down, and it's pretty much dependent on the tide, how much you get it taken away. But that total water displacement, that total water rise, you're talking about 6 to 7 feet right here for that St. Petersburg storm surge. So we're watching for that region right there also. How about this one? Cedar Key. This is going to be the big one. This is the one that always gets slammed. Remember, Adalia got a huge storm surge out of that one. Cedar Key, you're almost right there in the Big Bend. You're getting close to where all that water's going to pile in. Look at the tide right here. That's what we're watching in that region. So that's going to be high. As for the new numbers, 80-mile-per-hour winds moving to the north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. Big wind field, though, right? It extends at least 275 miles out with those tropical storm force winds, and that includes western Cuba, and then it goes up to the north. So let me take you through it. These will be the hurricane gusts, the orange. Sustained hurricane force winds expanding as it gets up by tomorrow morning early. That's 8 o'clock, and they continue to press in across the Panhandle through Albany, Macon. Look at that, though. We still have hurricane wind gusts north of Atlanta. This is going to bring down a heck of a lot of tree coverage. You're talking about North Georgia all the way down through the mid part of the state and in northern Florida. Power outages are going to be a huge thing. What about the timing with the winds? By 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, those tropical storm force winds are just offshore from the Florida Panhandle, but they're already in north of Orlando and Tampa. That's that line right here. By Thursday, 8 o'clock, notice it's whipping up there a little bit quicker. That's when you start seeing those tropical storm force winds out of Macon in the areas by Atlanta. And you can see the wind forests, they're going to be up there. Some of these might be a little bit undercooked as well. All right, where do we go from here? Goes up to the north, goes in areas by Tennessee as well. We've got you covered the entire time. We're Fox Weather. We're your Hurricane HQ. Here's a look right here. Leave you with Key West, Florida. 86 degrees. Yeah, I wouldn't wear a shirt under that either, pal. I mean, heck of a stuff, Fred. That's Key West. Tropical storm warnings. We're going to time it all for you coming up right after the break.
Field and brush mower. DR gets the job done right.
Let your feet take you wherever your spirit wants to go. The redesigned Hurricane helps you navigate any surface so it truly stands alone. Move forward with confidence at hurricane.com.
Do you have Medicare? Does your plan have the benefits you want? You may be eligible for a plan with additional benefits and savings. If you are new to Medicare, moving, or losing benefits, it takes just one free call to see if you may be eligible to enroll. Call the Benefits Network now for a free Medicare benefits review and see if you qualify for a plan that gives you additional benefits. Our partners offer plans from multiple carriers, so it's easier for you to compare your options, coverage, and pricing.
I'm on Medicare and recently moved, so I called to make sure to find a plan in my new community.
You don't get a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits automatically, so make the free call to the number on your screen and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy. For a free, no-obligation consultation,
call 800-827-8596. That's 800-827-8596.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Go to inventhelp.com to get started today. We have representatives nationwide who will explain the InventHelp process step by step. Over 10,000 patents have been secured through InventHelp's patent referral services. The InventHelp data bank includes thousands of companies who have agreed to review new ideas. We've been helping inventors since 1984. Let's help you next. Get started today. Go to inventhelp.com for free information.
That's $78.29.
I've only got $50. Take out the cheese puffs and the broccoli. I mean, who likes broccoli?
I don't. Only $22.87 to go.
It would be faster with the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives you up to $300 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
I've got money. Keep the cheese puffs, but leave out the broccoli.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $300 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
Guild has the designers that get your heart racing. Dior, Valentino, and more. All at insider prices, new every day. The looks you want are yours, at up to 70% off, but only if you act fast. Because 1 second they're here, and the next, they're gone. Designer sales at up to 70% off. Shop guild.com today.
We want to make sure that everybody is safe, just listen to the information. We try to provide information, and then folks can make the decisions that's best for them and their family. I don't believe in trying to scare everybody and trying to just say the only thing that could happen is worst case. We've said there's a range of possibilities for this storm. Some models have it as a Category 1, some has it as a Category 4. There is a runway for this to rapidly intensify. That's just a fact.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. That's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis right there. Hurricane Helene is now entering into the Gulf of Mexico, the lower part of it, right out of the Yucatan Channel. It's on track to become a major league hurricane. You're talking about a major hurricane Category 3 or possibly more, and it's got Florida squarely in its sights right now, and the entire west side of Florida is going to be under the gun. You're going to be raked by this thing as it rips up to your north. It's going to stretch out there with danger from the Keys through the Florida Big Bend area, including Tampa, St. Pete, and then points to the north, including Atlanta, Georgia, with flooding and tree damage. We'll talk all about that coming up. Fox Weather has team coverage as well, stationed all across the southeast. Helene's going to hit tomorrow, and we've got everybody in place already. So we've got guys right now all the way ringing around Florida into the Big Bend. I will be driving out there, flying out to Atlanta. That's after the story hits. It's going to be moving up in that direction. That means a lot of power outages. So after the show, I'm in Atlanta for the inland damage threat. It's going to be one of those storms that we're all going to remember. But first, we need to track this out. So we've got people positioned out across the region, unfortunately in a danger zone again. We're looking at regions right there by Keaton Beach, and this is in Florida. It's hot, it's humid already, but at least the weather is okay to get things prepped, at least for the time being. You've got another good, maybe less than 24 hours before the main stuff begins to affect you guys. Mike Seidel is out there. He's been out there for the entire morning long. I know it's hot. I can see it right there. You're talking about dew point temperatures in the 70s. Feels like the upper 90s. But, Mike, at least it's not blowing you over at this point.
No, I've got a good flop sweat going back here, Bob, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope you get out of New York, you fly down to LaGuardia, or get down to ATL, because it's gotten kind of a stormy, at least on the north side of Atlanta. They've already had lightning and thunder and gusty winds, so this is saturating the ground and making it more, unfortunately, positive for trees to get uprooted. And all the rain coming in tomorrow night and Friday. But that's another story. First, let's deal with the location here. Keaton Beach, Deacle Beach, Steinhatchee, here in Taylor County, where there's a mandatory evacuation for the entire county. And this is really, this area in the Big Bend is ground zero. It's hard to believe that it's going to go any farther west with that big trough coming in to the middle of the country. It may jog a little farther east before it makes landfall, but the bottom line is it doesn't really matter. This area is going to get hammered with surge. And I've been talking about the surge through the morning hours. Let me show you this palm tree right here. And the bottom frond, the lowest frond, I'm estimating at about 15 feet. And imagine a wall of water coming in and getting up to that frond. And that's the maximum. They're forecasting 10 to 15 feet of surge, the Hurricane Center. Normally high ground at time of high tide, but as I mentioned, the tidal range here is only about 7 or 8 inches. You know, you get into where I'm from, Maryland, Delaware, it's about this much from low tide to high tide. Here it's nominal, minimal, so it really doesn't matter. But I can tell you low tide tomorrow is at 5:33 p.m. Eastern. So we have the surge issue right here coming in. And so when you have surge, you got to build those houses up. And the building codes really changed after the superstorm of 1993. That was in March 12th and 13th. And the surge here in the Big Bend was 8 feet. Now this is like a winter storm, but the pressure really bombed out. And these homes over here, we get Robert to walk through the sand. And Bob, if you don't have shoes on today, you'll get certainly first-degree burns on your feet. That's how hot it is out here with the sand. But there's the building near the house, and we've been showing you this through the morning hours. That first level is up about 20 feet, and what we've noticed is, and you can see now the change, they have boarded up the windows. They have not finished yet, and that owner does not have those shutters where you can just pull them shut like we saw yesterday over at St. George Island. This house, they headed for the hills. They pulled out their camper and got out of harm's way. This house is not nearly as high. I'd say about 8 or 9 feet above the sea level, so they may end up with water in the first floor. But you look around here and then across the bay, and you see a lot of homes that are built way up. That White House there, the third one down, that one's about as high as this one. That one's up a good 20 feet too. So those houses are going to be fine. There are no trees around them that are going to hit the roofs. So their only concern really is the surge, which will stay under the houses. The surge goes away, it rains. The roofs are hurricane proof for the most part. They've got the, you see, it's not a shingled roof. It's an aluminum roof. So those are what you see in hurricane territory. So Bob, these homes that are high enough up are going to come through in okay shape. The power may be out. Now with Michael, the power was out 9 days here. They had power out for about a week with Idalia. That was about a year ago. So this is really turning into like a mini Hurricane Alley. This Big Bend area was hit earlier by Debbie this year.
Yeah.
And the power was out for up to a week in some areas. And now I talked to some sheriff officers earlier, and they said, well, the trees that came down are already down, so maybe we'll be in better shape. That's a nice thought, but there's still a lot of trees around here because this area didn't get really, raked like areas just off to our west around Mexico Beach and Port St. Joe, where you drive on 98 and you really don't see any trees except these big denuded logs, dead trees sticking up out of the ground.
And those palm trees, they can take a good beating when it comes to wind and rain, but that salt water is not good for them at all. You're absolutely right. Watching your live shots right now, Mike, I don't see anybody behind you. You've got mandatory evacuations where you are?
Yep. The whole county.
Good.
Whole county. Did I mention earlier the only other time I remember, maybe you remember another county, Monroe County, the Florida Keys, they've mandatory evacuated the entire county, but I've never seen any other counties do the whole county. The locals here are used to evacuations where we're standing, these barrier islands, these low-lying beaches, Steenhatchee, Keaton here, and Deacle Beach. But other than that, like in Perry, there's even a mandatory evacuation there. That's the county seat. That's where they have the Walmart and the McDonald's, and that's where we're staying. We've got a sturdy hotel, and we'll be fine there. There's no trees really close to the hotel. And the other issue is we don't have to worry about surge there. We'll see how it shakes out as far as flash flooding in those areas. But we can get up to higher ground in the hotel.
Yeah, I was
so we're
worried
going to
about
be safe tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just going to be trying to figure out what happens. How many roads are blocked by trees? Can you get around on Friday when the sun comes back out? It remains to be seen.
Yeah, that's going to be the main thing. And you would say, okay, we're kind of out of tourist season, but we're not because it's fall break for schools in the Atlanta metro. And guess where they all usually go? Down to the Florida Panhandle. So, yeah, there's some people that need to be evacuated. Mike, he's our storm specialist. I appreciate you, Mike. We'll check back in with you in a little bit. All right, let's get a look at this. More pictures coming in from, as a live look, that's our camera. We've got position right there at the Key West. I guess it's beer 30. Everybody's gone. Look at that, though. You got the waves that are starting to slash on in. There's a nice splash mark right here. Florida coastline set to see major impacts out of this thing, especially later on today as the waves continue to build. Call for as much as a 10 to 15-foot storm surge north of there. We're not talking about the Keys right now. We're talking about all the way up to areas right by the Big Bend of Florida. So here's that satellite imagery. You can see where we're watching. You can see a nice swirl in the atmosphere, and that is our Hurricane Helene, 80-mile-per-hour sustained wind storm right now. We're going to zip underneath the cloud cover at this point, show you where the radar is located, and that's some heavy rain. The outermost bands now, right across Cuba into the Florida Strait. Some lightning popping out there also. You can see Key West as it pops up on your screen. Rain is essentially off to your west and down to your south. We've got a couple of streamers coming in, right areas by, looks like the Bahamas into the coast of Florida. So we got some thunderstorms that are out there. So that's what it looks like up here. You get to the Florida Panhandle, more storms are there, and you can see the exclusive Fox model. Everything is rolling up to the north. So there you are, Fort Myers getting scraped by some rain showers. Those are the outer bands. That's tomorrow morning about 8 o'clock. Up by the Panama City. Some very heavy rain out there also. So that is all stretching up to lower sections of Georgia, into North Georgia, the Carolinas too, and ultimately it rains itself out. That combined with an upper level load, it's positioned right there by the Tennessee Valley. It's going to be a very heavy rainmaker inland. And you're talking about probably 10 to 15 inches of rain for the North Carolina mountains into upstate South Carolina and some of these spots. So let's look right now, though, at the wind forecast. And as it comes in tomorrow afternoon, it appears that its strongest winds are going to be right before landfall like it always is, and that will be sometime after dark. So sunset, it's going to be dark at this point. Talking about Friday, 3 a.m., winds are starting to come on down. Peak winds, though, could be higher than 100 miles per hour. I know it says 80 to 90 in Tallahassee. But if you've got a 125-mile-per-hour sustained wind storm, that's the forecast coming in at you, it's not going to slow down for crap when it gets to your region because it has so much momentum. So take this very seriously. Get up to the north a bit farther. It's a big wall of rain coming in and a big wall of water. That water is going to be the saltwater flooding. That's the storm surge flooding. That's an area shaded in purple. So anywhere up to 15-foot storm surge. Doesn't mean everybody there is going to see it, but it does mean you have a good potential of seeing that, especially around the high tide area where you had a couple of inches of total on that as well. Windfall, look at this. The wind forecast for Port Charlotte, 60 to 70 mile-per-hour gusts. That's at the peak right here. Here comes the rain also. That yellow shaded area is good 2 to 3 inches of rain. Fort Myers, a little bit more, maybe 4 to 5. And again, inland, the wind is going to pick up as well. You've got tropical storm warnings and watches all around Central Florida. Orlando, 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts. That'll be the peak for you, and that rain is going to be slamming in there too. So it is not just a coastal event. The breadth of this storm is going to be gigantic as it bowling balls all the way up through the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico into the Florida Panhandle. Look at some of these wind gusting forecasts. 90 to 100 again, and somewhere around Tallahassee Metro. Rainfall-wise, going for about 8 to 12 right there by Apalachicola. Basically, it's going to rain itself out up to the north of there. There's a good look at the swirl in the action. There is a little bit of dry air. If I could draw it in right there. Brian Norcross hit that before. There's some dry air on the other side, too. But we do expect to see this stuff begin to fill in pretty nicely over the next couple of hours for sure. Now, we just got the 2 o'clock update. We'll get our hurricane expert, Brian Norcross, in here to pinpoint exactly what he sees, what he thinks is going to happen as well. That's all coming up in just a little bit. We've got a lot of coverage going on for the next several hours. I'll be going down to Atlanta as well. So as I throw at the break, I want to show you this. That right there is the cloud cover, and it looks like a pretty decent-sized storm, but it's only going to get bigger. We'll be talking all about that coming up again just after the break.
We now have Hurricane Helene. The worst of this storm is likely yet to come.
We're really taking it right now.
A very dangerous, perhaps deadly scenario.
But each rain band, it gets more intense.
All this an indication that there's a lot of atmospheric energy.
This is just what we've seen all over the place.
It's a big rain, and the rain hurt.
Cover. As we
Pops a deep field and brush.
Too. But my big health scare got me really thinking about the future. With my girls set to take over the family business, I want to make sure I don't leave them any of my debts. Heck, the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
We're just happy to have you back, Dad. Don't go thinking about debts or anything like that. We'll find a way to pay.
Now see, that's why I made a call and found out I'm eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and other final expenses.
Well, hold on. Eligible for $50,000 and you just got out of the hospital? Didn't you have to take a medical exam or something?
No, there was no medical exam, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
Dad, I'm glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-973-4811 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased. Your benefits can never be decreased. Call 800-973-4811. That's 800-973-4811. 800-973-4811.
I still sweat, even when I use this. That's because deodorants don't stop sweat, just odor. Try Carpe instead. Dermatologist tested products for sweat and odor. Each one is designed for a specific area of the body, because who wants to use the same product on our faces as our intimate spaces? No one.